Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be toxic drama, a trip through crazy town. So this is an interesting email. This particular guy, he had read 3% Man 3 times before he got into this relationship, and it lasted about 9 months. And he's already left the relationship, but he doesn't want to get back together. But he just basically wants some feedback. What could I have done differently? How could I have handled this better? Being pretty objective, and so there's some things that happen there. He's like, I think my ex-girlfriend might have had narcissistic personality disorder. He's gone to therapy for it, trying to figure her out. But there's just some really crazy things going on here. She's gaslighting him. And I don't want to spoil it because it's like some of the stuff you're going, damn. So it's a good email on the kinds of behaviors and things to look for because these kinds of women are out there. Like, when I was younger, I didn't know any of this stuff existed. But obviously doing this for a living and having encountered and done thousands and thousands of phone sessions over the last 20 years with guys all over the world in every cultural background, and they've come across these kinds of women, and it's like they don't prepare you for this kind of stuff or to deal with these kinds of people. And when you're growing up, they don't teach you anything about this in school, and so it's like a lot of us just find out the hard way about it. One of the things that's interesting, and Dr. Dominic Deanna, BeSimplyWell.com, it was saying that there was a study that he had read, and it said that 1 out of every 3 women that's over the age of 30, 33, something like that, is on some kind of psychotropic medication, being Xanax, antidepressants, or being treated for some kind of mood or personality disorder. So when you think about those sheer numbers, because when I was growing up, there people were not heavily medicated like they are these days, and so you got a 1 in 3 chance now of dating somebody, or if you're in the dating world, of coming across a woman that's on some kind of medication, whether it's an antipsychotic or a Xanax or some antidepressant, something for bipolar. So you have to understand like what happens, because especially people come on and then go off those medications, their behavior becomes radically different, and it's shocking. If you've ever, I had a mother who was a psychotic schizophrenic, and seeing her come off her meds and how wacky she became, it's shocking. So this is a good email to learn from what not to do. So he says, hey, Coach, I have read your book about 3 times, and my most recent relationship showed I did not read it enough. Well, the idea of reading it 10 to 15 times is to learn it so you can become really good at vetting your dating prospects. Just like you should be vetting all people in your life, and that includes friends. Especially, do people honor their words? If people that constantly say one thing and then do another, people that just are bullshit artists basically, they use a lot of flowery language and to make all these promises of what they're going to do, and then they don't follow through in any of it. You got to be able to spot and recognize that behavior and disengage from those people when you notice it, instead of making excuses for them. Because obviously this guy started seeing really weird, flaky behavior, but as he says, he was kind of vulnerable because he was just out of a divorce, and he says he thinks she kind of preyed on him and was looking for somebody that was in a vulnerable position like he was. Because you're just coming out of a divorce, it stings, you want to find love again, and then the relationship starts off good with a lot of flowery language and a lot of gaslighting, and then the what's the word? The belittling and the other things start happening. Loads of barrels of fun. He says, unfortunately, I attracted what appeared to be a narcissist. We were in a relationship for nearly 9 months. Being freshly divorced, I felt this one was looking for someone vulnerable like me. We seemingly connected and had a lot in common. Then things started getting squirrely. And so he's got a bunch of bullet points here. So number one, he says that she called him the name of one of her male friends while they were laying in bed, and then tried to say that she called him a pet name. So he's literally laying there next to her, and she mixes up his name with some other guy. Oh, it's just a pet name. So, I mean, that's gaslighting right there. Trying to make you think that what you just heard is not what you actually heard. That's what gaslighting is all about. Is you cause the other person to question their view of reality so much by telling them that what they saw and heard with their own eyes and ears wasn't actually what they saw or heard. It was something else. He says she stayed in touch with the man who took her virginity over 30 years ago and lives in another state through phone and through text. He says she has a godbrother that drops in to visit on occasion that she told me about. And when I asked her if he knew we were dating, she said, I don't tell him my personal business. Keep in mind, this is a godbrother, somebody supposedly close to her. Maybe they're not really that close. But they are close, but not that close. She hid used lingerie that I know she didn't use with me under other items in her drawer. He says, I found this when she asked me to clean out that drawer. Oh, that's fun. Oh, hey, where'd you get that lingerie from? Oh, it's just old stuff. It's old stuff. He says she went for 1 hour appointments, but will be gone for 4 or 5 hours. No calls or anything. And so when I asked her about it, the longer the excuse, the bigger the lie. Remember that. So if somebody's telling the truth, if you ask somebody something and they haven't done what you're thinking they did, they'll just come right out and say no. But when they give you some long explanation, they're basically trying to lie. In other words, if they haven't done something, they'll come around and say, that I didn't do that. That didn't happen. But if they give you some long excuse, then they're making shit up. He says, when I asked her about it, she said it's a running joke in her family where women go out for one thing and then they're gone all day. She asked for breaks at certain points, like before Valentine's Day, or when she said a family member or friend was supposed to come to town. That sounds pretty suspicious. Oh, hey, Valentine's Day's coming up. Hey, let's have a break in our relationship. I got some family coming into town. He says she may have been having sex with someone else while I was on the phone with her. This one's a beauty. He says, I heard skin slapping sounds on the phone in the background at various times. I put her on hold. She thought she was on hold, but all he really did was mute so he could hear what was going on. And he says, one time I heard her make a low moan. Another time, she was laughing like someone was kissing her, and then another moan. Then later on, skin slapping sounds again. So she's got the phone, thinks she's on hold, and all he did was mute her. And that's pretty clever, actually, if you think about it. If you think there's somebody there, it's like, oh, hey, let me put you on hold for a second. All you do is mute the phone. Mute it so she can't hear you. That's pretty clever, actually. She started silencing her mobile phone around me and always checking her phone and taking it everywhere. Yeah, that's not a good sign. She was gaslighting and manipulating me. Just like when she called somebody else's name and says, oh, I was using a pet name. You didn't hear what you think you heard. He says couples therapy didn't work. I followed up with a female therapist separately to help me figure her out. She tried to dissuade me from going to a female and stick with male therapists only. Yeah, I've had many instances over the years where guys go to couples therapy and they have like a female couples therapist, and then she ends up ganging up with the wife or the girlfriend on him, and it's like, and he becomes the bad guy. Because there's a lot of therapists out there that get into being therapists because they're messed up and they're not very good at what they do, unfortunately. Got to vet your therapist as well. Make sure they're competent. He says, my therapist said she can't say for sure my ex was cheating unless I had solid proof, but that my ex has a lot of inconsistencies with her that don't seem normal in a loving relationship. Yeah, I mean, hear the skin slapping sounds and stuff when she thought you were on mute, and the moaning and the giggling, just like somebody's, it's like, that's pretty obvious. But can you imagine being in a relationship with a woman like this? And you're not going to trust her. You're not going to, You're always sleeping with one eye open. You're questioning everything she tells you. And you keep thinking, well, it'll get better. It'll get better. I can work with this. It's not your job to fix these people. It's your job to recognize that it's time to hit the eject button. The therapist helped me to see that I can't and don't trust this woman who herself has trauma and abuse from a previous marriage and other relationships, as well as unhealthy relationships with mom and dad growing up. She was also on meds for psych issues, as I found out. Remember what I was talking about earlier about psychotropic drugs? He says, I eventually made the decision to walk and no longer engage her, as I believe she has narcissistic personality disorder along with her other issues. I'm taking a year off from dating and mating to work on myself and fully heal from this encounter. You know what? It's probably a good idea for you. And then when you're ready, get back in the game. Because you get burned like that, it's going to make you a little gun shy. So take your time. And when you feel ready, get back out there and play ball. But at the end of the day, what you need to learn from this is being able to spot this kind of behavior quicker. Especially, one of the best tells is going to be, do the words and the actions match? Does she BS you a lot and then follow through? You know, does a girl tell you things like, I'm going to cook you this great meal. It's going to be amazing. And I got this ingredient and that ingredient. And it's going to be awesome. You're going to love it. And then say she's supposed to come over Friday night and make all this for you. Then she's like, let's just go out and get some sushi. It's like, what? You just spent a half hour on the phone the other night telling me, last time we were together, what this great meal you're going to prepare me. And an hour before we're supposed to get together, I never went to the grocery store. Let's just go get some sushi instead. Little things like that. Words and actions don't match. Somebody cares. Somebody tells you they're going to do something. Do they follow through? Because if they don't, that's not a good sign. The words and actions got to match. And so what happened here, just like he said, he was in a vulnerable state. He just got out of a divorce. He's thinking, hey, I found fresh love. This is great. Could be wonderful. My future ex-wife potentially here. And then instead he gets mixed up with a narcissist because he explained a lot of things away. He made excuses for it. I mean, 9 months is a long time, but that, as he said, this guy, the title of the email was A Trip Through Crazy Town. So he knew what was going on. But good for you, dude, for having the balls to finally walk away and hit the eject button and disengage. Because a lot of guys would keep making excuses going, I can use Corey's book to fix her. It's like, no, you can't. The idea is to spot her and attract a good quality woman that shares similar goals and similar values. So if you got a question or a challenge and you'd like to get my help, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.